The Boy in the Box. America's Unknown Child. The winter of 1957 in Philadelphia was unforgiving gray skies, bare trees, and bitter winds sweeping across empty fields and forgotten roads. Yet nothing was colder, nothing more desolate, than the discovery waiting in the brush along Fox Chase Road, Philadelphia. A cheap cardboard box sat abandoned, its edges softening from days of rain. At first glance, it looked like the kind of refuse people tossed without a second thought. But inside was something no one could ever forget. A small boy, bruised, malnourished, and heartbreakingly alone. No witnesses. No missing persons report. No frantic mother begging for help. No father called the police in desperation. He was simply there, left without a name, a history, or even a chance. When the first young man peeked into the box, he saw eyes tightly shut, as if the child were only sleeping, except the bruises told a different story. The stillness of the boy's small frame struck him with a force he couldn't process. Should he call the police? Should he walk away? Fear over his illegal rabbit traps won the battle, and he fled the scene. Hours later, another man discovered the same box, stared into the same lifeless eyes, and finally called the authorities. This moment, his second discovery, launched what would become one of America's longest and most perplexing cold cases. The child was estimated to be between 3 and 7 years old, though his malnutrition made his age difficult to determine. He weighed only 30 pounds. His ribs protruded. His skin carried bruises old and new. And his hair, oddly, had been cut recently, crudely, unevenly, almost frantically. Forensic examiners believed the haircut was done either right before or immediately after death. Why? To hide his identity? To remove lice? Or was it part of a punishment? No one could say for sure. He wasn't simply neglected. He had lived a life defined by suffering. To understand the boy's short life, one must look beyond the physical evidence and into the psychology of abuse in the 1950s. During that era, child abuse was rarely talked about publicly. Welfare systems were unregulated. Reporting abuse was almost unheard of. The shadows children lived in were often deep and deadly. This boy lived in those shadows. When police arrived, they hoped for signs of struggle, tire tracks, or footprints. Instead, they found nothing. No fingerprints on the box that mattered. No signs of dragging or carrying. No personal belongings. No discarded clothing. Just the boy, wrapped in a cheap blanket, placed into a box once used for a bassinet, left in the woods where someone believed he might never be found. Investigators quickly realized this was not a random act. This was deliberate. Someone wanted him untraceable. The autopsy revealed harsh truths. The boy had undergone a hernia operation at some point, meaning he had once been under medical care. Doctors hoped that such a surgical scar would help identify him. No hospital recognized him. No medical record matched. No pediatrician came forward. His nails were neatly trimmed, suggesting someone had cared about his appearance or managed him in the days before his death. But the contrast between neat nails and malnutrition painted a picture of strict control, not loving care. A child who is groomed while starved is a child living under absolute domination. Just a mile from where the boy was found stood a foster home widely known to police and social workers. The home was rumored to be overcrowded, chaotic, and filled with unreported children. Witnesses later claimed a boy of similar appearance once lived there and suddenly vanished. But the foster family insisted they had nothing to do with the case. No official records proved otherwise because, in that era, foster homes often kept poor or no records at all. Many detectives believed this was the closest the case ever came to breaking open. Given his malnutrition and lack of documentation, some investigators believed he may have been sold or exchanged illegally. This theory gained traction because he had medical scars indicating some structured care. He was malnourished, implying long-term neglect. No one reported him missing. His haircut seemed rushed and purposeful. Children trapped in unregistered caregiving situations, especially in the 1950s, often slipped through the cracks entirely. Decades later, a woman identified as M told police her mother purchased a young boy, abused him, and killed him accidentally. Her story was chilling, detailed, and consistent with the boy's injuries. But M struggled with mental illness, and her account lacked physical evidence. Detectives were divided, some believed her, some dismissed her. Some thought the boy had escaped an abusive home and died of exposure or injury before his body was staged. But no runaway matching his description existed anywhere. Perhaps the most terrifying theory is the simplest. He may have been born in secret, never documented, never allowed to attend school. A ghost child. What might have happened to him? Detectives asked. Did he die from prolonged neglect? The bruises, malnutrition, and lack of identity strongly suggest he endured years of abuse. He may have died accidentally due to untreated injuries or starvation. His caregivers, fearing discovery, dumped his body and removed identifying markers. Did he die from physical violence? Some injuries hinted at blunt force trauma. A moment of rage could have ended his life, followed by a panicked cover-up. Or was he a hidden child? He may have been born to someone who kept him a secret, perhaps a young mother, an abusive family, or someone ashamed or unable to care for him. In this scenario, no one ever reported him missing because no one was allowed to admit he existed. Was he passed between homes? He may have lived in multiple unregulated homes, each more abusive than the last. When he died, no one felt responsible enough to report it. All scenarios share a tragic truth. The boy likely lived and died without ever experiencing safety, love, or belonging. In 1998, investigators did something radical. They exhumed the boy's body. They hoped modern DNA could do what the 1950s never could. The sample was degraded, but scientists persisted. In the 2000s, early genealogical databases began matching distant relatives. A family tree formed slowly: cousins, great-uncles, third cousins twice removed. Finally, in 2022, investigators identified a potential biological family line. Name. Lineage. A door opening, even if only slightly. But one question echoed louder than ever. Why did no one report him missing? Today, America's unknown child rests beneath a headstone paid for by strangers who refuse to forget him. Visitors leave flowers, toys, and letters addressed to a boy they never met. His case remains open. His story continues to unfold. And one day, with the relentless advance of forensic genealogy, the final truth may surface. Until then, he remains a symbol of every lost child, every silenced voice, every mystery waiting for justice. This was the case of the boy in the box. A mystery that spans generations and refuses to fade. For more deep-dive true crime stories, investigations, and cold case mysteries, subscribe and step into the grid. Because here on Mystery Grid, every story is a puzzle waiting to be solved.